Good evening, folks. Delighted to be here on Linwood's Armagh TV, and I'm joined by somebody who'll be very, very familiar face to anybody who's watched Armagh football over the past sort of 10 years or so. Goalkeeper, he's been involved with Armagh Harps, winning the county championship back in 2017. Represented Armagh, I think, at all levels, certainly at senior level. And is now coaching with our minor team, our under-17s. It's Paddy Morrison, and Paddy's really kindly agreed to come on here to do a sort of Zoom as we reach the end of sort of the Zoom era. We think hopefully as the lockdown eases, Paddy just agreed to come on and have a conversation. Actually, it was something that we talked about back at the first anniversary of his father John's passing. That would be, it would be great to have Paddy in just to talk about the legacy of the late great John Morrison. So look, Paddy, thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Delighted to. So we've got a bit of just in terms of sort of the we were talking there before we went on air that we initially thought we were going to do this at half time in the athletic grounds, but the world's changed somewhat from a sort of that. It was great to see this lockdown easing. I'm sure you're looking forward to getting back out on the pitches with another bit of good news today. And it looks like it's not going to be too long until we're back out and things are up and running in the GAA.
I'm looking forward to get back on the pitch. So I am. There's being a goalkeeper, there's only so much running you can do, you know. So, and I was joking there the other night. I've actually done more training in lockdown than I was doing before lockdown. So it was more so just to get away and just to keep the mind active and keeping yourself healthy. Like, you know, I know for the first 3 or 4 weeks I wasn't doing much, and then just sort of said I need to start doing something because I could feel myself. Just sort of, you know, just losing my fitness and even just moving about, like, you know. But yeah, it'll be good. Now Wednesday we're allowed to get back to non-contact stuff on the field. It'll be great just to get going again. We have been meeting up with the other goalkeepers and the Harps and that, you know, and trying to do what we can within the guidelines, you know, within the rules. So that's been a couple of weeks now. Yeah, just mostly been doing the odd drill just to keep your eye in and just mostly keeping your kicking going. And that's, you know, now that we can go on the field and now we can have, you know, up to 10 I think it is, plus your coaches. It'll be good just to get back. That social, even just the social element, you know, we even just miss that. Just being able to get
because I mean, it looked at one stage, it looked very 50-50 as to whether we were going to get back at all. Because I know, you know, there's all the various club WhatsApp groups up and down the country, and there was these 5Ks being done. And I suppose at some stage we were all sort of looking at what was going on and thinking, you know, is this hot? You know, is there going to be any season here at all? Like, so it's been a great sort of relief over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. You know, at least to know now that, you know, there's going to be some sort of a season.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now that they've an actual date for it in your head, it puts your mind at rest, knowing that you have an actual date to work towards. Whereas, you know, doing all that training in lockdown and trying to keep yourself, if you don't have an actual purposeful date that you're aiming for, it's harder to keep that sort of discipline and that sort of mindset of what am I doing this for, you know. So it now gives you a sense of purpose of why you're doing it, and you can then sort of plan what you're doing and when to step it up and when not to step it up and when to ease off. Whereas before, without an actual end date, it's harder to plan if you don't have an actual date to aim for.
Yeah, were you doing any of these 5Ks that seem so popular up and down the country? I don't know if you want to.
Well,
do you manage to set a personal best for your 5K?
I would have been doing 5Ks and stuff, and I hadn't done any of the challenges or just for my own benefit. And I mean, when you get to 36, most of the stuff I do is on the exercise bike to look after my knees and my ankles.
Oh, I know there's a few of your former colleagues I've heard using that given that line about needing to stay off the roads. Look, Paddy, look, I just wanted to have a chat with you, just to reflect on, I suppose, the life of your father, John Morrison, because I know from involved in the press box in the athletic grounds for a number of years, he was revered in there. He was revered really throughout the country. I'm sure no more so than in your own house. But I suppose one of the things I was wondering is, when you were growing up, he'd have been involved in taking that, centrally involved with the Armagh team in the early 1990s. Would you have been aware that he was somebody that wasn't the public eye, that was involved in the GAA, people knew him?
Well, we'd always known that he was well known. He was the type of guy who wouldn't let you pass him. So it was surprising how many people he knew and how many people knew him. But I mean, he had been involved with Armagh before, back in the 70s. Way back then, I think it was 71 to 73 or 74. So he'd been back. He'd been coaching since he was in his 20s. Same there, he was chairman of the Harps, and he was playing and he was coaching the Harps all in the one time in his early 20s. So he was always involved in the game at every level, administration, playing, and even coaching as well. So from that, he was all around the country, just meeting with different teams, different people, and then the amount of people that used to come and call to the house looking at ideas or even just advice, not even just about football, but about anything. Him being a teacher for 35 years, he'd got a lot of people coming looking to know about study skills, and him being a geography teacher, he would have tutored people, even Ma's or English, but especially the geography. So even helped a young fella win, I think it was a world title in Irish dancing, who had been there close enough to win it before, and just psychologically couldn't get over the line. And Dad had what? He had 7 degrees in total, and 2 of them, one of them was sports psychology and another one was psychology. So he was well fit for that side of the game as well,
Yeah, because I suppose back then, that wasn't something that, sports psychology wasn't something that people were big into. I was actually listening to, I think it was the Wexford team back in the late 1990s, and they pretty much hid the fact that they'd been working with a sports psychologist. It wasn't the done thing to admit that at all. But I suppose John was one of the pioneers of that, really, wasn't he?
Well, he was a pioneer, but I mean, a lot of the stuff we would have looked at other sports and seen what other sports were doing. And I mean, you look at the professional sports, especially in America, everything is nearly specialised. And it's funny, I was just hearing on the radio today, I was listening to, that BBC Radio 5 Live, and they were talking about their throw-in coach, having a coach to coach in throw-ins and how to retain possession from throw-ins and create scoring chances. So, I mean, they're breaking the game down into nearly every specific part, and it's worked on, at every session, and there's more time being put into stuff like that. And the amateur sports are starting to take the lead from the professional sports, and it filters down from there. The amount of stuff that would have took from other sports, basketball role to evade people, and even as the attacking plays that he would have done would have come from other sports like basketball and American football and that. So, I mean, a pioneer in terms of maybe introducing it to Gaelic, but not a pioneer as in introducing it to sport, So everybody's influenced by other influences,
Yeah. So was he a believer, would he be a believer in the theory that young players who play lots of different sports, then there's plenty that they can pick up and take then into their whatever sport they specialised in? Because I know, particularly probably in rural areas, there's often, certainly 80s, 90s, there was only one sport, and that's Gaelic football. Whereas maybe in the city there was a few more options, and in Armagh itself.
Well, he was a big advocate for letting kids be kids, first of all, because in their formative years, they learn how to run, they learn how to jump, they learn how to climb, they even learn how to fall, and that's an important thing to make sure. A lot of parents, being overcautious, to try and catch their kids and all when yes, you want to protect them from a serious fall, but they have to learn how to fall as well. And I mean, he would have taught ourselves and even the grandkids whenever they were down. Most parents would try and stop the kids from climbing the stairs, but Dad would teach them how to climb it properly so that it would be safer for them. He would even show them when they fail to control the fall going down the stairs so that they would get that bit of a fear of what not to do. But in terms of them transferring the different movements from different sports, he's a big believer in critical movements in critical moments. So just because it's used in one sport more than another doesn't mean it can't be used in any other sport. So he had been big into just letting players play and learn, teaching themselves. So if you teach them like a textbook skill, so the basic skill of the kick, how to kick the ball chest on, off the laces, and then if you let the child or even the player go and develop that into a hook kick, or even inside of the boot, outside of the boot, so you'll have the fundamental of the kick there, and then they'll develop it into what's called a performance skill, and that's what his belief was. So instead of telling them you're doing that wrong, try and understand what he's trying to do and try and make it better, rather than telling him he's doing it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I know that's people say about him, that he was such a positive influence. Was that something you would have noticed about him? I know that everybody, when somebody's your father, it's a different relationship you have than would you notice like just how positive he was compared to, say, other people, your friends' fathers and that? That's a real facet of his personality.
Well, he had anyone that ever met him, whenever they asked him, "How are you, John?" the first words out of his mouth was, "I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful." And simply because he knew how infectious positivity is, and you don't know what sort of day that person's having. And by Dad saying that he was wonderful and being positive, that passes on to the next person. So then they get a boost from that. Whereas if Dad's negative, it draws them to a negative. So by him being positive, it kept him positive, kept his mood up, but also it was transferable to the other person as well. So then that improved their positivity as well. But that comes from a psychology, there was I'm trying to remember. He had a great quote that he always told people that it was, "I can't wait till tomorrow because I get better looking every day."
You're right.
Even that, he meant it as a joke, but at the same time, it was a way of cryptically telling people to become a better version of themselves every day. So, and it just loved. I'm sure yourself in the press box and that all his wee jokes, and he was just a ball of energy.
I was just going to ask you, where did the terrible jokes come into all of this? Sometimes maybe if you're going off the air, you sometimes be a wee bit nervous or tense or whatever, before the game, and then John will call you over and you're maybe trying to look, when's this team going to be announced, and is there any changes and sort of all. And then John maybe called, "Paddy, come over here," and you'd be like, "John, busy. What is it? And then he'd just tell you this absolutely awful joke, and it would just calm you down. It was that was obviously part of his armory.
Yeah, he had a cupboard full of them, and I mean some of them he just made up off the cuff himself, just on the spot, or he just remembered them, or maybe he'd heard them from somewhere else. But he had one for every occasion.
Yeah, no, it was something that was, it was so noticeable. But I tell you mentioned it there, Paddy, about his work sort of beyond the GAA, because he'd been involved sort of in a lot of youth work around Armagh, particularly maybe sort of in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when things weren't wonderful in this part of the world, and that he actually did an awful lot of good unseen work there, outside of football.
Yeah, well, he said, I remember Mummy saying at Daddy's wake that how he got into the youth club in Armagh was run out of the parochial hall, and Mummy said that Dad had seen an advert in the paper about youth club leaders. They needed youth club leaders, And Dad took the advert home to Mummy and said, "Look, we have to do this." I mean, my Daddy was in his mid-20s, so him and Mummy were in their mid-20s, and they said, "Look, we have to do this because we never had this growing up." And it was just a way of helping people get a sense of direction, because he never had that sort of direction himself, and knew that from what he knew and been at university himself, that he could maybe try and steer people on to that direction as well. So, I mean, it was in through the 70s, the height of the Troubles, and you'd seen, like, the sort of trouble that was going on out on the streets, and trying to keep the young people away from that. So, I mean, when they were in the youth club, he knew where they were, and when the youth club was over at night, he would walk them home, especially the young ones, So, just to make sure that they didn't get into any trouble, or sometimes they'd be goaded by the security forces and stuff, just to try and get them started. And that, and Daddy would be telling them to ignore them and walk home, and then Daddy would have to walk home himself, and they'd be giving him sort of abuse on the way home after. But he was more interested in just keeping them safe. And there was one of the people that did go to the youth club years ago had said that a lot of the people that went to the youth club wouldn't be in the careers and life path that they are now, only for Mummy and Daddy, and the youth club. And unlike, say, some of the youth clubs maybe around today, that if Daddy had seen that you had a bit of drink or alcohol or whatever on you, he made sure that you weren't kicked out, because he knew with that on you and you were kicked out, that you might have got into more trouble than maybe staying there. So he had a place called the Green Room up the back, and that's where you sat until the place was over. And then he made sure you went home, and he had a frank discussion with your mother and father, and told you, "Look, young Paddy's had a few the night. He's turned up," and then just kept him on the straight and narrow, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously had so much time for other people. Like there's that example. The one thing, and you touched on it earlier. When all the tributes were Turlough O'Brien, he was the Carlow manager. Basically said that he drove up from Carlow to Armagh, having read your father's book, just to try and have a chat with him about it, and that led to endless amount of hours of sessions of John working with him, and where he obviously had fantastic energy then, and just this real desire to help people. That really stands out in everything you hear about people talking about your father, Paddy. Must be something you're very proud of.
That guy, but he had time for everybody, and his enjoyment, his reward out of it was to see that other people could take the stuff that he used and use it themselves, but also take something that they got from him and make something different out of it. So if it give them a drill or an exercise to use, and they turned it into 2 or 3 drills, he thought that was great. That was better than a medal for him, So for him to be able to pass something on, and then them to be able to use it themselves, was Dad's greatest reward, So there's a famous story of a fella that time they took Mayo to the All-Ireland final, that they'd actually seen someone trying to watch the training. So rather than stop the training, Dad sent one of the selectors up and told him to come on down in. And it wasn't anybody like from another county or anything. It was just somebody who just wanted to watch training. And Dad took him down, stood him beside him, and gave him a session. Dad used to write out all the sessions and give one to each player, so they went home with it, and give him a session plan and explained everything that they were doing and showed him, and just didn't have a bother about it. And I mean, if they were playing Dublin or playing Armagh, and I mean, he would have showed them their session as well, So he didn't mind, because he taught that many game plans into the team, and the team ran the game plans themselves on the field. That if they played one way and it was figured out, then they could change and play another way. He was confident that he had enough tricks up his sleeve to outsmart anybody, So he'd have happily shown you what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, would he have felt, or would you have felt watching him that his sort of coaching style adapted a lot? Because he's involved in football so long, the G and the coaching that he'd been involved, the game that he was coaching in the early 1990s to the game that he was coaching towards the end of his career, they were almost like, when we've all watched back lots of old games over the last 2 or 3 months, but they're like different sports. And is that something that he probably thrived actually on the challenge there of, as the game adapted, of adapting with it, or is that something they would ever spoken to you about, or?
Well, it wasn't more so that the game changed. It was more that the way it was coached was changed. And it was more, back in the 90s, early 90s, there was hundreds of thousands of pounds put into coaching. So he was a bit miffed about how, after putting so much money and finances and resources into coaching to make the game better, and then when the game evolved into all the different, from the so-called puke football to all the different stages that it went through, why he would then try and put rules in place to stop that evolution of football. So that was one thing that really irked him, and he would always try and stay ahead of the curve. Every year he would try and reinvent what he was doing. So take a look at the coaching he was doing and how they were playing, and try and evolve that further. So you'd always go back to that. So you maybe have 1, 2 over the years, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different ways of playing, and he gave the responsibility to the players on the field to call what way they played. So in Croke Park, by the time you get instructions out on the field, it could be anything from 3 to 10 minutes before they're put in place. So if the players are fit to do that themselves, they can do it straight away within breaks of play.
Right. So you obviously believe a lot in players making decisions on the pitch, and managers not being too prescriptive. That was obviously part of his philosophy then.
Well, by the time he got the instructions on, or by the time he would shade across 2 players and get the message on, it was probably too late. And that's why he would try and teach the players, especially in Croke Park with 82,000 people. It's very hard to communicate from the sideline, and that's why it was mostly, once the players went out onto the field, that they had the responsibility to call the calls themselves. So each line would have had a leader to call what way they were going to play or what shape they were going to take up. So it took less off the line, so they could actually work on the decisions that would actually change the game, who was going to maybe come on and what they were going to maybe shuffle at half time, so that the players themselves can make the changes quicker rather than having to wait for the line. And they're the ones that are in the throes of the game, so they can see the patterns of play from the other team and what's working and who's playing well. So to wait for that confirmation from the line and to get it back onto the field might take too long. So that's why he would put most of the responsibility of the players and allow them that freedom to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah. And did you did you ever feel sometimes that he had some very, very unorthodox techniques over the years as well? Did you ever feel sometimes there was too much made of that, and people didn't appreciate just how good a coach he was, and the work that he was doing? People tended always to focus on the unorthodox, the Brazil nuts. I think was one of the ones that from the Donegal team, but it was obviously something that he liked to make that people think a little differently.
Yeah. Well, if he was here, he would tell you that in an insane world, there's an insane man that looks crazy. So what might be unorthodox to other people was not unorthodox to him, So, and he was big into the psyche. Wherever the mind goes, the body follows. And before time he was with Derry, he had a big rubber skip parked outside, and the guys had to physically take all their negative energy and put it in a bag and throw it into the skip before they went into training. And even the Valentine's cards, some of the Mayo boys put on Twitter and all, like I helped them write them and put them in there. I think there was like 55 of them was on, and send them out. And so it was great to see that some of them still had them, after so long. So, and so something like that it's a great psychological boost to certain players. Some people use them, some people don't.
Right. So basically, what you're saying here, Paddy, is that you wrote the entire Mayo team a Valentine's card?
Well, I had helped. I'd helped write some of them because there was 55 of them to get through. It was Daddy came up with the wording of it, and we helped out as best we can, and then having to put them in the envelopes and all, and then get them posted. So it was a Saturday morning. I remember coming down early for breakfast, and I was handed a batch of them and says, "Right here, get them done." So.
I mean, he must have been. It must have huge energy even in terms of the travel that he did. When you looked at all the different counties that he was involved in, huge amount of them in the northwest of the country. There's actually, you've Derry, Donegal, Leitrim, Mayo. Sort of northwest. He certainly mustn't have minded driving, or and certainly he must have liked the company of the people that he was there that he was driving with.
He loved coaching. I mean, it wasn't just the county teams; it was the club teams, and he was down speaking at Cork's county conference one year. He had he'd drawn up a plan for Conor Coonhan as well. I think it was Conor Coonhan for the Cork seniors the time they went out to Portugal, because Daddy had been out before himself, so he had helped them draw up the plan for it. He'd have been away Galway, Wexford. Anyone that rang him, he'd have went down, organised something, and even right up before, right before he died, I can't remember the gentleman's name from Cork, was looking him back down for a coaching conference, so he had that planned out, and he had a load of other stuff that he was planning out. Another book he had planned as well for teaching skills, especially the tackle. He was trying to get it on the go. So the way the tackle is now, and the way the rule, he wanted the rule more defensive than it is now at the minute. And he had even created a game where to teach people how to tackle properly, where you would hold two tennis balls and you had to tackle the man, and you weren't allowed to drop the tennis ball until you dispossessed the man with the ball. And it was a way of stopping people from, pulling and dragging at the jersey. So you were forced to actually aim for the ball. And then if you dropped the tennis ball before you dispossessed the man, it was a foul against you, So it was a great way of stopping people doing like a lazy pull or a drag if someone was getting past them,
I mean, that's something like that. It's so simple when you explain it, but there's obviously a huge amount of thought that has gone into it. It's so unique. It's just a brilliant example, I suppose, of the way he looked at the game and how innovative he was as a coach.
Well, he was always. If you think of it this way, if you find a problem, you just think of a way of how you can stop that. Anything can be trained into a player. So if he has a problem tackling, and the problem with his tackling is that he pulls and he drags, well, how do you stop him from pulling and dragging? So if you get him to hold something and tell him if he drops that before he dispossesses the man, then it's a foul, and then he stops dragging and hauling, So the same time that he had Paul McGrain and the balloons, he was down Sherry's Field, across from the house, and he was teaching Paul, helping Paul with his jump. And whenever you throw a Gaelic football up in the air, it comes up and straight back down. So Daddy was having difficulty, get timing his throw to Paul's jump. So he went over to the back of the car and blew up a balloon. When you throw the balloon up in the air, it comes down nice and slow. So then Paul had all the time in the world to time his jump and go up and catch the balloon. And I mean, something simple solved the problem, and it helped Paul, increase his leap and his catching.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's brilliant. Just it was fascinating hearing all of this. I mean, I assume you must have a huge influence in your own career, Paddy. When you were, you were learning the game, and then when you were coming through, some of the big games that you were involved with Armagh and with the Hearts.
Yeah, well, look, I'd say the best thing I ever taught, from my own personal point of view, would be self-awareness. Knowing your own ability and what your own flaws are, and how to fix them. So he wouldn't have told you how to fix something. He would have sort of give you the questions that led you up to find out yourself, so you could figure it out for yourself, rather than tell you the answer, he would give you maybe a question or two to lead you into on the right direction, so that you could figure out your own instead of telling you, you know. And I mean, that stood to me even to today, especially with my own goalkeeping and stuff. It's looking at your own game and then trying to see how you can either improve that or, you know, implement new parts of the game that you don't have. So you can't do that without being self-aware.
Had he been a goalkeeper, Paddy, or was you been a goalkeeper? Was that a departure? Or?
Who, Daddy?
Yeah, what position had he played when he was playing?
He played full back and full forward for the Harps. So he was a full back, and I mean, even myself, at underage, I played full back, and when I first started at senior, I was a midfielder, full forward, up until I was 24, and then I'd sort of left the game for 4 years, and when I came back, I just couldn't get my fitness up enough to play out for midfielder, full forward. But for school teams and Armagh minors, I'd played nets or goals before, so Harps needed a goalkeeper at the time, and I just came back to fill in that role for them, and ever since, that's 6 years ago now, and that's where that came from.
Right, and then I presume that as you were making that sort of switch from being an outfield player to a goalkeeper, he'd have been somebody that you'd asked for advice, and he'd have been helpful with that, or giving you tips on how to make the best of it.
Well, it was great for one-to-one coaching as well. Clinics, and I mean, the principles of one-to-one coaching is the same for a full forward or full back or even just a goalkeeper. So I had the skills by that time to go on and pursue it myself. But I mean, in terms of the psychology of it, dealing with that was a big help. But I mean, I was only back about a year before I was took on to the Armagh team, and I mean, that's where I really excelled under Kieran McGeeney. So it was a great help having that experience with the Armagh team, which really gave me the experience to improve my own game, and having the opportunity to play against some of the top teams and top players. It really gives you an eye opener of the levels that you can reach.
Yeah, and now you're trying to pass on those skills. I know you're involved. You have a sort of a goalkeeping school.
Yeah, well, it's an area that's sort of forgotten about. It's a very important area, especially nowadays, and it always has been. People say it's been sort of highlighted, and the goalkeeper position has evolved over this last 10, 15 years because of Stephen Cluxton, but. I mean, this isn't knocking Stephen Cluxton. I still think he's been the greatest about. But goalkeeping's always been important. We've only started to realise that it's important. That sort of way. So there's been more time and energy been put into it. And up and down the country, it's amazing when I go to coach even young fellas or even people that are at senior level, and you ask them what sort of coaching have they had over their lifetime, and it's little to none. So, I mean, that specific one-to-one coaching where you look at their techniques and the finer points of their goalkeeping rather than setting up a drill where you're putting them in the... And a flaw at one stage of the skill can totally mess up the skill as overall.
Yeah, so we lost you there just one of the joys of Zoom there. But yeah, you were talking about the importance of skills and specific goalkeeping skills. And do you think it's something that's going to catch on now? That there's going to be a lot more clubs looking for goalkeeping coaches and recognising that it's something that
definitely there's already people are already putting more time and effort into their goalkeepers, and I find there's a lot of clubs too all looking, people come in and maybe even just teaching the coach that they have at their club just to give them a bit more better experience and ideas that they can use to further their own, because to keep getting a goalkeeping coach in every year is not cost effective for a club. So it's better to maybe get someone from the club to train up and get the love for it, so they can pass on what they know, and then it's more cost effective for clubs that way.
Yeah. Do a lot of people end up? Do a lot of goalkeepers? Do you find that you work with? Have they ended up sort of like yourself, outfield players, and then just for whatever reason, just sort of end up accidentally in goals? I know in our own club, we would have had some players like that. Is that something that's pretty common from the people you work with?
Well, you find there's a lot of goalkeepers that do play outfield, and I mean they are. I mean, from my own point of view, I find it a lot easier to play goals being comfortable on the ball, but it's more of a mindset to be a goalkeeper rather than anything, and that's why you might find a lot of players that play out the field that are able to then come towards the goalkeeper. And if I was involved with a younger team, best way to find out or to earmark someone to see if they would be a potential goalkeeper in the future is just to pick two teams and don't give them any positions. Just let them play, and you'll find certain players will gravitate to certain parts of the pitch. And I mean, you'll have the player that'll stay up front all the time wanting to score. You'll have the guy that'll stay back looking to defend. You'll have the guy that does both, defends and attacks. But then you'll have you'll have some, maybe one or two players that'll be the very last line of defence, and he will try and throw himself at that last tackle for the score. And then I mean it's not a guarantee that he'll be a goalkeeper, but it's the earliest sort of trait that you could say he could be a goalkeeper. So I mean that's I mean, you can even earmark your forwards, your defenders, and your midfielders for that. That what their tendency traits are.
Yeah, no, it's sort of a natural selection then, really, is it?
Yeah. So what their natural instinct is, there's someone who has defensive instincts, someone who's attacking, and there's someone who has last line of defence. He's their last man, always seems to be the last man, and throws himself for that last block or that last save.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Paddy, just one of the questions I wanted to ask you, I suppose taking you back to what would have been a really, really sad time last February when John sadly passed away. I know it was really noticeable in that week, the outpouring in the media, on radio interviews, articles. I was looking through some of them earlier today. Just the real love and affection that people had for your father. How much the likes of Turlough O'Brien, I saw piece with Kieran McKeever, with the Mayo players, and the Samantha Valentine's card. I was, I mean, in what was, I'm sure, a really, really difficult time. Was that something that you took a lot of comfort in?
It is, surely. It is. It's great to see, how much he was appreciated, and it is. I mean, at the time you don't really feel that you really noticed it, but I mean, looking back now, it's a great lift to see the outpouring. And I mean, when you're in the middle of trying to sort out the arrangements and stuff, you don't really get a lot of time to see it. But I mean, even when you do have the time, and then I mean, shortly after, when everything starts to settle and you can see and you get the chance to go back over them, yeah, it's definitely a big comfort to see how much how much the reach that he had to people, So, and he had always a great saying about, people never really remember what you tell them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel, So that was a big thing for him as well, especially in terms of the players and the people that he met, So it was great to see that they appreciated his company. And I mean, our only regret is that not everybody got to meet him,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know just from my own perspective, Paddy, like I was, I'd known John through the press box in the athletic ground. I would have chatted to him about club games and different things. And I know actually when I was starting to listen to how much people thought of this, the likes of Turlock O'Brien, inter-county managers, and just how much, I started like, oh, no, I had access to all of that, and I never used it. I nearly regretted the fact that there was so many things I'd be involved with in terms of statistics and video analysis and that. And there's probably so many things that I could have asked them that I should have. Like you really got that impression from so many people of just how much they learned from him.
Yeah. He tried to help everybody, and I mean, even the columns he used to write for the Gazette, he tried to. They were transferable to life rather than just sport. So all the skills that you use in sport are used in everyday life as well. For work or for education or even just relationships with people. They're just so transferable. It's the same skills that you're using from sport to life to education to your employment, and that's what he tried to help. He knew that they were just the same skills, and people just having confidence in their own ability, basically, and having that shoulder or that person that they could ring for just to bounce an idea off, and for him to give them guidance on it was maybe just enough for them.
Yes, he was obviously really, really, communication was a big thing for him. As you say, he was a teacher, so communicating there. Really, really talented journalist as well. Wrote with the Gaelic Life, wrote books, wrote with the Ulster Gazette. So, obviously communication was a huge thing. Was a huge thing to him, and he was really, really adept at it.
Yeah, it was a big thing, especially for his coaching. Like he'd always ask, he'd always be taking feedback from his players and management team, or even asking the people that were thrown out the water, or even the doctor. Everybody had a set of eyes. So I mean, someone's bound to have seen something that might have missed. Everybody had an opinion. And there was no such thing as good or bad feedback. There was just feedback, So it's, that's why he got as much feedback as he could from everybody, just to in case he missed something that they had seen.
And tell me this, Paddy. I was reading the tribute from Mark McGinn and from the Harps Club, and something that I hadn't realised at all about your father. Somebody who was a talented footballer, such a talented coach, and involved in the game. How did he ever end up as the chairman of the GAA club? He ended up. So he was a journalist, he was a player, a coach, and he was also administrator. It just I had no idea he'd been involved on that side. I know they often.
And at the same time,
example of it. Sorry, Paddy.
You're okay, I know. But at the same time, he was helping out with the youth club as well. So, and he was a teacher, and then he had the young family as well. So. We'd be surprised where he got the time as well, but he just done it. And I think the position came open for the chairman, and he went for it, got it. And a lot of the stuff that the Harps are putting into place today has been based on what Daddy had sort of set up back in the early 90s. So it's great to see it all coming to fruition now. But look, he just made time. He didn't worry about how am I going to do this. He just got stuff done, and the rest is what he does. He just got it done, basically. He just got stuff done and didn't worry about how he was going to do it. It was just well planned. And the time he was with chairman, he had a great committee working with him, and they were just great. They helped him out as best they could, and whenever the stuff needed done, it just got done, basically.
Yeah, I mean, was the most perfect example, clearly, of the idea that if you need something done, you ask a busy man. That's it. And I'm sure the development in Abbey Park, was a great tribute to him. All the work that's going on there at the minute.
Yeah, well, he put plans in place himself back in the 90s, and it just never got going. And I know the chairman, Paul Grimman, had found the old plans and tried to use them as like a foundation, and made whatever changes they could to them. And look, it's been built now, and we just can't wait. We had been using the new 4G pitch that we had installed, and it was great. And the facilities there are unbelievable. We just can't wait to get in and using them, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of clubs up and down the country you only realise how good something is when it's gone. Look, Paddy, I can't, and you've been really generous with your time and really appreciate it, but I can't
Well, we had been beaten in two finals previous, and then in the quarter-finals the year before by Crossmaglen, and we had just made a conscious decision that this was going to be what you nearly call the kitchen sink year, that you would fire everything you could into it. So we were determined that we were going to win, and the club done everything to get everything we needed in place, and I would say, I mean, without the club as a whole, even the support and anything we needed was there. And then it was just a change in attitude basically from the players as well, that we'd been there close enough 3 years in a row, and that we really needed to do something before the opportunity slipped past. Teams had done it in the past and let them slip by. You can think of the old Drum and Tea teams, or even the Pierce Oaks up until 2009. I mean, if you keep missing those opportunities, sooner or later they're gone. But the final themselves, we knew we had a good chance going in, especially with Mahary being the overall favourites, and coming in on the radar like that was a big help to us. It allowed us just to go out and play. And then I don't remember too much about the save myself. I remember the high ball coming in. When you would watched Mahary and in a couple of games before, especially the two cross games they played, and we'd realise that in the last 5 minutes of both halves that they liked to put the 3 or 4 guys that they were 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", and they liked to put them into the square and just drop balls into them. So we'd done a lot of work on that to try and counteract that. And even from my own goalkeeping perspective, I had done the 2 weeks leading up to that final, I had done nothing but like working on my reactions, and we created a drill for flick-ons, where the goalkeeping coach that we had, he would throw the ball up to a guy standing in front of me and he would fist it on, but I'd have my eyes closed until I was told to open them. So the ball was practically in the net already, and I was just trying to react to them as quick as I can. But so I mean, that actual save I'd probably made 300 or 400 times already before it actually made it. But when it actually happened in the game, I remember the ball being played in and Ben Creeley getting the flick on, and I can remember actually consciously saying to myself, Jesus, that's in. And then next minute I know I was just lying on the ground, having palmed it out. So it was the training and the build-up that actually my body just sort of naturally reacted. It just took off without me actually consciously thinking about going for the save, and that's why I saved it, basically. I can't actually remember thinking, dive for that. I can actually remember thinking to myself, that's in. And then next thing, I was on the ground, palming it out, and just getting up for the rebound.
And it really was because it really was. Sorry, man.
It was just pure reactions. My body took off without my mind thinking about it. So, and that's just testament to the training we'd put in up to the final,
Yeah, no, because it was just a classic example of a save that won a match. There was 2 points in it, or 2 or 3 points in it, and the Mahary get the goal. It was right towards the end of the game. But no, I'll tell you what I wanted to ask you for that, Paddy, is I'll always remember the thing that probably I'll remember most about your father. Is I was in the press box for that game, and I remember just looking just as that happened, and the joy and delight and pride in the man's face. He was just absolutely beside himself. He was just, when the final whistle went, so just something that I'll always remember. And it was just, you don't need anybody, I'm sure, to tell you how proud your father was of you, but it was just something that was so so obvious that now there was, you know, poor Joe McManus now after the game, he had to be told by your father you have to wait for a few minutes before you get the lift home after the game from the athletic grounds. So you still get a lift home then afterwards with your dad. See, I know he went down to see us then after the game, but it was just something that was. It was just brilliant. It was a brilliant moment, you know, for yourself, and I'm sure for your whole family.
Yeah. Well, he was so proud because you had me and you actually had my brother Sean on the team as well. Like, so I mean, Daddy never won a senior championship himself. He actually retired the year before they won it in '89. So he did. So he was so glad to see us win it. You know. So, and he knew how much effort that I'd put myself in that year. That was the year I had the ball obstruction as well, back in January, February. So I'd been out for 4 months. 4 months, so I had missed the whole league with Armagh as well. So I'd done a lot of work to get back to playing. There was a chance the doctors play definitely that season, maybe not at all ever again. You know, so I put an awful lot of work in with both the Harps and Armagh, the medical team and Armagh as well. Like, so they've done a great job with helping me rehab for that.
Yeah, I know. I suppose it's when you put all that work in. I suppose it's always brilliant when it's you get the reward at the end of it. Paddy, look, thanks a million. You've been really
you're welcome.
Really with your time. We've just been we're delighted on Linwood's Armagh TV to get a chance to speak to you and pay tribute to your father, because he was within that press box he was somebody who's hugely respected and much missed. But look, I'll let you look. Thanks again, Paddy. No, really appreciate you chatting to us this afternoon, and hopefully we'll all see each other out in the playing fields up and down the county now within a few weeks.
Well, indeed. Well, can't wait to get back now.
All right, thanks a million, Paddy.
Thank you.